Hey everyone, and welcome to Newsreel Now, a Sunday show that grew up on the internet, providing news for people that have given up on, well, the news. And today we're covering four main stories, starting off with the USA's 250th anniversary celebrations since the US Declaration of Independence was adopted. Secondly, the US government lifting their ban on Anthropic's Mythos and Fable 5 models. Then we're coming to the UK, where there's changing leadership of the British Labour Party. And then we're looking at the rise of solo entrepreneurship since AI became mainstream. And finally, we're doing our Rage Bait of the Week, where we're interviewing an Australian influencer who posted a video saying that British people were soft during the recent heat wave. And this video went viral and it's gained 475,000 views and quite a bit of press coverage. So I'm hosting today with Jack Brewster, the founder of Newsreel, and we've got a stack
Quite a
of
packed
guests.
show, yeah. How's first of all, how's the heat wave over there, by the way? It's like absolutely burning up right now. Like my computer, I just had to change locations because the heat. It was so hot, my computer was sweating.
Yeah, well, no, it's calmed down now. Last week
Yeah,
it was pretty awful, and I fear that it's returning next week. But we've got like a brief period where
yeah.
it's like acceptable to be anywhere other than like Heathrow Airport. I think is like the most air conditioned place I know. So
Oh, there you go.
I
Okay,
actually
I'll have to go there next time. Yeah, to get away from the heat. Well, I'm excited about this
yeah.
show. The first story like we're going to talk about is the July 4th celebration here in the U.S. And I'm sure you've been watching from across the pond, Kitty. But I think we kind of kicked it off somewhat yesterday with, I don't know if you saw the news, but there was a couple that proposed at the top of the Empire State Building. So while that wasn't a July 4th celebration, it was at least the start of some kind of festivities here in the U.S. But transitioning now, just to kind of go in more depth on that story. So on Saturday, the U.S. is celebrating its 250th anniversary. It's obviously not been met without controversy, which has been the unfortunate thing. There's been cancellations of certain musical guests. There's been controversies about the reflective pool of the Lincoln Memorial turning blue, a White House UFC match, many commemorative coin designs. And I think the saddest part about all of this is that, for the 200th anniversary, it was right after Nixon had been impeached. There was a sort of sense of healing in the nation that after this sort of very divisive thing had happened, it was a time for us to come together. I am very skeptical that that's going to happen this time. It feels like we're just in a kind of a new era of polarization, and I'm very like you'll have to convince me to see that like that we can somehow take some kind of healing away from this. But joining me to talk about that is somewhat of an expert on this topic. We have today Cameron Katz. He's a head of content and partnerships at an organization called Made by Us, which is a nonprofit aiming to connect Gen Z with American history through more than 750 historic sites, libraries, and archives. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
So I'm curious. Like, first, can you talk a little bit about like how is Gen Z reacting to the celebration overall? Like, I have my own thoughts on this as a member of Gen Z myself, but can you give us just sort of a pulse on the nation when it comes to how like young people are really reacting to the July 4th and 250th celebration?
Absolutely. And, sort of what you touched on with Gen Z, I think we are in a challenging time right now in our country. But many Gen Zers that we work with at Made by Us, and I'm a member of Gen Z myself, are really seeing this as an opportunity to turn the page and have a new chapter where
Hmm.
young people are really the ones who are leading that is what Made by Us has been trying to do with the US 250th for the past several years, is really create more opportunities for Gen Z leadership. One thing that we always like to say about the 250th is when the country was founded, it was being run by people much younger than those who are running it today. And so we would really like to see the 250th mark a new chapter where young people have roles as contributors and leaders, not just in our democracy, but across many different types of sectors as well.
How do you think the celebrations might have been different maybe under a Democratic president? Let's say Kamala Harris won in 2024. Do you think that this moment would have been different, or would we have been dealing with some of the same issues?
I'm not sure that the president is really too relevant to this conversation. One thing we've really seen among Gen Z that I think would have been true regardless is this push towards community, really being involved locally and taking actions to support your neighbors. So the initiative that we've been building is called Civic Season. This has been going on for the past 6 years, and it is a new civic tradition between Juneteenth and July 4th that is hyper local and really focused on communities. It's co-created by Gen Z and hundreds of museums across the country. So we really encourage our Gen Zers to kind of get out in their community, meet new people, and connect. I think one thing we see a lot in the media is that we are perhaps more divided than we really are in real life. And I think that's really evident when people can come together for a fun event, learn some history, explore a museum. During civic season, we see all kinds of events like documentary screenings with discussions afterwards, scavenger hunts, trivia nights, lots of different things to really help mend the fabric of our country and bring communities together. And I think that Gen Z was really looking for those opportunities for in-person connection, sort of regardless of what was happening in Washington.
So do you agree with me then, or do you guys, I should say, do you disagree with me then that this is beyond repair, in the sense that we've sort of gone past what how this could be some kind of unifying event for not just young people, I think, like people overall in the country? Like, do you still have hope that we can salvage some kind of like unifying glow or halo effect from the 250th?
I do believe that. And I know that sometimes the optimism might seem naive in the circumstances that we
No.
are. Certainly, we are in a challenging time for our democracy. But one thing I like to say is we've been through challenging times before: the American Civil War, a lot of social movements that were happening in the 1960s. We've seen upheaval and polarization many times in our history. And I think by having hope that we can come together, that, perhaps the 250th is the start of a new chapter for the United States, that gives us something to work towards, rather than sort of just throwing up our hands and saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I think by giving young people more opportunities to get involved and actively shape our country, it's more likely that people will have hope for the future and will want to work towards a better nation for everyone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was talking about the 200th, right? The 100th was in 1876, and as we all know, that was not that long after the Civil War. So I read some things about that period, but it's definitely not the only time that we've been this polarized. Thank you so much for coming on, Cameron. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, now from the 250th to technology. So Mythos, Fable 5. Claude's new most powerful model, or Anthropic's new most powerful model, is back. I've even tested this morning. It's working the way that it used to, for the most part, with some safeguards that were put in. Just to sort of backtrack on this story, several weeks ago, the Trump administration blocked Anthropic from releasing this model. It had been released, I think, for a few days, but they had to pull it back after there were some disagreements about how this model was rolled out, and some of the cybersecurity concerns that the Trump administration said that they had. Joining me now to talk about this issue, it's a really important issue around free speech and sort of the future of technology, is John Coleman. He's the member of the Legislative Council for FIRE, which stands for the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. It's the nation's leading defender of fundamental rights on college campuses. Thanks so much for joining me, John.
Thanks for having me.
So first, I do want to talk a tiny bit more about just what your organization does. I gave a little bit of a background, but just for maybe like the 2 sentence version, if you can, like tell our listeners or viewers what FIRE does.
Yeah, we're the nation's premier First Amendment organization that defends the free speech rights of all Americans. We started doing college campus work back in 1999, and we've since expanded to work on First Amendment issues in society at large.
So this is a lazy question, but could you just first give me your reaction to the news that when it happened several weeks ago? What did you first think about this model being like pulled back from Anthropic?
I was concerned about the lack of transparency. We really didn't know a lot of information when it was first announced. We had no knowledge that there was a letter that was sent from the Commerce Department to Anthropic. Most of this we learned from Anthropic themselves. And so we're here today still with a lot of questions about how this went down, what the reasons were for the stalled release, and what's changed, and what this is going to look like going forward.
And talk to me a little bit about the free speech implications for something like this. Like, how does this relate to free speech? Like, why? I mean, I've seen a lot of chatter on social media about this, but you're an expert in this field. Talk to me about why someone should care about this when it comes to their rights and freedoms.
Sure. Well, FIRE's position is that AI is an expressive tool, like the expressive tools that we've seen in the past, whether it's the printing press, social media, the internet, TV, radio. It's a tool that people use to communicate, and that means that the people using it and developing it retain their First Amendment rights. And those rights include the right to share and receive information. So when the government is coming in and telling an AI company, hey, hold up, we want to review this technology, are they reviewing it for ideological reasons that might affect how these companies can think about AI or the kinds of AIs that they can produce? There's a lot of questions there, and a lot of those questions still remain because we don't know why the White House is interested in these AIs, other than that they're very powerful frontier models. Some ideas about national security concerns have been raised. There's also concerns about the spat between Anthropic and the White House,
of course,
over the use of AI by the War Department for autonomous weapons targeting and for mass surveillance. So it's unclear what the decision making is, what process they're using. And that affects people's rights, not only the access that was lost by this model from being held back, but also what's going forward, what is it going to look like for Americans' access to future AI technology.
So is FIRE's position then that there should not be any restrictions at all on the release of AI models? Like the government should not interfere in any way? I mean, there are genuine concerns. I know that some of this can be marketing, right? Like there's both from the AI model side, like there's been a lot of chatter that like Anthropic could have been just sort of like trying to make it seem like their model was better than it was. And so they said, oh, this is going to be we have a lot of concerns about the cybersecurity implications of this model. And then obviously on the government side, you already talked about it, right? That they might have ideological concerns. But is there any world where there's like FIRE thinks that there could be a good reason to have the government like step in and regulate the release of these models, even as they maybe not this one, but future ones?
Sure. Well, I think we got to step back and see what FIRE does. We're a free speech organization. We're not a national security minded group, but we obviously understand that AI has a lot of different uses. It has a very strong expressive qualities, but there's some functional elements too. There's agentic AI, which can go out and do things. There's code as conduct that can produce harmful effects. We need to first look to existing law to see what kinds of harms are covered, and in where there exists an immediate fear or danger where code can immediately go out and find loopholes in government infrastructure or has the ability to drain bank accounts. Can we distinguish between a user coming and inputting a prompt, getting an expressive output versus turning AI into this machine that can go out and do things that harm the physical world.
Yeah.
Right now, we're not seeing any nuance. We're not even seeing any actual process in place whatsoever. So that conversation hasn't happened yet. But FIRE's position isn't that no regulation is possible here. It's just we need to look at what proposals are being put forth and what the First Amendment implications are.
Yeah, no, I think even the AI companies themselves are not always sure how the models are going to respond either, which is the other, I think, sort of uncharted territory here that we're dealing with. The law has not caught up, but some of the reason why the law has not caught up is also because the companies have not caught up to their own models. So it's quite a world that we're living in. Thank you so much for joining us. Kitty, now over to you for some UK politics.
Yeah, hi, thanks for that, Jack. So our next story is back in the UK, and it follows the 22nd of June, where our Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced his resignation as Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party. So this then triggers an automatic Labour leadership contest. And so initially there were a fair few names suggesting they might run, and this included former Health Secretary Wes Streeting, former Armed Forces Minister Al Carnes, and Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster Darren Jones. But now there's only one name left, and that is former Mayor of Greater Manchester and now MP for Makerfield, Andy Burnham. And if it remains like this, Andy Burnham will be announced leader of the Labour Party and therefore become Prime Minister on the 17th of July. Until then, Starmer still remains Prime Minister as caretaker. But we are now asking what this leadership contest with only one competitor left actually means for the country. But today we've got James Tibbett to give us some insights, who is a reporter for Labourlist, a British news site which focuses on all things Labour Party politics. So welcome, James.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. So do you want to just explain what your role is and how you got to become a reporter for Labourlist?
Yeah, of course. So I spend a lot of time working on Labourlist is a online news platform, as I think you said in the introduction. And with that, in the world of media today, we also have to do a lot of output on social media as well, as this is often where people find their first access to news. And so I spend a lot of my time doing kind of video first content for Labourlist, and making sure that we are having that as an avenue to talk about the Labour Party on social media platforms, as well as on our own website, where myself and two of my colleagues we write a newsletter once every morning, covering the sort of the biggest topic that is going on within Labour Party politics or sort of UK politics of the day.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you've probably got like a lot more insights that we can hear. So Andy Burnham in his speech talked about a number 10 North, which has got quite a lot of hype. But we don't really know what this will involve. Do you have an understanding of what it could look like?
So we do have a bit of an understanding. Actually, while this program has been streaming live, I've been, as you kind of have to do in my world of sort of very political journalism, where they say a day is a long time in politics. Where things move really, really quickly. So I was keeping just a little eye on things that are going on at the moment. And while people have been watching this in the UK. A radio station called LBC has had Andy Burnham doing an interview with a journalist called Andrew Marr, and they've asked him this very question, and he's indicated that number 10 North will be based close to Manchester Piccadilly, I believe, which is a train station in the middle of Manchester, where he was formerly mayor of Greater Manchester. Now, what we believe he wants to do with this, given the content of the speech, and also If you want to know more about the man who seems to become the next Prime Minister of the UK, he has a book called Head North that he wrote with a co-mayor of his, the mayor of the Liverpool City region, Steve Rotherham. Both him and Steve, there's a bit of a story to this where both him and Steve were MPs in Westminster in the former Labour government, and then in 2017 decided to step away from Westminster because they didn't like the culture there. They didn't like the way that Westminster and Whitehall operated as institutions of running the country, with it being overly centralised and too based in London. So Andy Burnham and Steve, they went and became mayors of two of the sort of big, strong city regions within the UK, both based in the northwest, and both grew up in well, Steve is from Liverpool, Andy's from sort of in between Liverpool and Manchester, but he used to represent a constituency in Manchester. And through that, they sort of put forward this new way of looking at politics, which would decentralise power from Westminster and be very heavy on devolution and spreading power and resource right across the country, giving a community first approach. Creating a number 10 North and establishing that would be the kind of first and sort of quick, easy to understand attempt at doing that and taking power out of Downing Street, out of London, and distributing it across, the rest of the country.
Yeah. And do you think if there were to be a general election, this policy of like a number 10 North would be supported?
I think it is a so if you looked at it on face value alone of just the name number 10 North, that might not be enough to sort of get people over the line. But if you're asking me whether I thought that devolution as a kind of central pillar to a new way of doing politics might be supported in a general election, I think there's probably quite a good reason to suggest so. Typically in the UK, as we've seen in lots of places around the world at the moment, but in the UK there are lots of people really concerned about the cost of living. Lots of people really concerned that politics for a long time has been quite unstable. Andy Burnham's probably going to be our 7th Prime Minister in 10 years. That's not something that we used to be very used to as a British democracy, and now we are kind of having almost like an average lifespan of 2 years as a Prime Minister. People sort of feel that politicians haven't sort of offered them an opportunity to see change in their lives. And what Andy Burnham is trying to do is offer a changed way of doing politics, a different type of politics, a different sort of thing to the status quo that many people are used to. And that does seem to be something that I think many people would be quite attracted to across the UK, because two of the other parties that Andy Burnham has got to try and see off in any attempt to win a general election in 2029, or perhaps even before that, if he was to call one, would be Reform UK, which is led by Nigel Farage, someone who comes stateside quite often, and the Green Party, led by Zach Polanski. And both of these two parties are considered insurgents. Reform was only established in 2022. The Greens has been kind of, for the longest time up until the last 2 years, really, usually sits in sort of 5% or under in terms of how much support they get across the country. But recently, both Reform and the Greens have had a real kind of insurgence of support. And that has been largely down to the fact that both of them have tried to offer what has been quite a radical shift away from the political status quo. Andy Burnham offering a plan and a platform of devolution within the Labour Party, a kind of a legacy and established political party in the UK, would be perhaps something that people would equally be attracted to for those same reasons as they might be for Reform or the Greens. It's a different way of doing politics, and that's something that the UK, given the kind of large spectrum of different reasons that people are politically, economically, and socially frustrated at the moment, that's something that he's offering as a real what he would refer to as a wire break of the system.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I would love to quiz you more because you're obviously very knowledgeable, but we are going to have to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Generative AI disproportionately drove the number of solo founders. It was the human teams that still dominated the highest performing ventures. So today we have a Gen Alpha expert on the issue, Janam Jain, who developed Mango Engine, which is an AI marketing tool for founders and small businesses. And Janam developed this age 14, which makes him Dubai's youngest AI startup founder. So welcome here today, Janam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Well, you're a very impressive a member of Gen Alpha. I'm used to introducing Gen Z as like the youngest people I know, so it's pretty cool to be speaking to you.
Yes.
So
Thank
do you
you.
want to just introduce yourself and like tell us how you got into to starting your business?
So, I started my very own YouTube channel when I was 6 years old, and since then I've been in technology and learning about how the world works. And since then, I've taken up a lot of different challenges, let that be reading books, attending networking events, um, hosting my own events where I did more than 120 events, and even passing out of 13 last year. So since then, I've learned a lot of different things. I went to my first ever business meeting when I was just 6 years old with my dad, and over time, I've learned a lot of different things. And through that, I decided that in the current age of AI, why not let's automate a few things for businesses? And that is where the idea of starting my very own startup came from. And yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because this morning I was actually reading about uh, so so AI influencers and how there's in Dubai there's a new agency started with AI influencers. Is that also something that your company would look into?
As of now, we're not into the AI video generation platform. We could look into that in the future because it is something that's actually taking over the content creation market, especially for AI. But currently, what we work on is the text and image generation for businesses.
Yeah. And so when you created Mengo, did you use AI to create it?
Yes, the whole product is developed using AI, and it's basically an interface between a user and the AI chatbot. But it's not a prompting tool like a chatbot, but it's more of a questionnaire type that helps you understand your business and then create marketing content for it.
Do you think you could have founded it 10 or 20 years ago when there wasn't mainstream generative AI available?
I would have been able to create the idea, but I would not have been able to produce it fast enough, and it would not actually be something that would be usable for a lot of people because people would think that agencies would be much cheaper, much better, and it was the time where service was something that was actually ruling rather than softwares. So 10 to 20 years ago, it was just the evolution that was actually starting into software.
And do you think you're part of this trend of solo entrepreneurship, or do you employ people now?
So yes, currently I am a part of it, and my product will actually help a lot of people start their own solopreneur journey. I have not hired a single person in my company, and majorly everything is outsourced. I have outsourced all the work. So yes, I feel like I am a person who is in the solopreneurship journey, and my company will help a lot of people as well.
And do you not want to hire people because you see it as an additional cost, or do you just think that AI is so capable it can fully replace human workers?
That is one thing that a lot of time people think employees as a cost, but it's more like an investment. But the thing is, for my business, what I've noticed is I don't really need employees to be hired because there are already a lot of agencies who do the work, and I could be of the first solopreneur who actually runs the business to a huge level. But I might eventually need to start hiring employees because it is important to start delegating your tasks to different people so that you get more time to work on more important things.
Yeah. So what tasks do you see as irreplaceable for that humans will have to continue to do?
More decision making, as AI currently can do a lot of creative tasks like content writing, blog generation, scripts, image generation, video generation. But when it comes to those text or images being actually approved, it still has to be done by a human because AI does.
Oh, oh, sorry, you dropped out.
Oh, so my bad. Yeah.
No, no, no.
So what I was saying is AI does not have the taste of flavor currently, but humans have that, and it's something that cannot be replaced currently until the second AGI is created. But I do feel like it will soon grow.
Yeah. And my final question is probably, do you see a day when AI becomes the founder itself and it completely replaces human input?
I feel like that day is far, but it's possible. But the founder, it might be a co-founder, but never a founder, because for the AI to actually create the startup, it needs the idea, which of course comes from a founder.
Okay, thank you so much, Shana, and good luck
Thank
with
you.
all your ventures.
Thank you.
Um, okay, and finally today we're doing our rage bait of the week. For those that weren't here I've got some stats to summarize the conditions. So the UK, England, and Wales all recorded their highest average June minimum temperatures since records began in 1884. It was the first time since extreme heat warnings were introduced in 2021 that a red warning for extreme heat was issued for 3 consecutive days. And on the 26th of June, an all time high of 37.7 degrees was recorded in Norfolk. Um, this heat led to everyone talking about it online, but it also led to 1,000 schools being closed across England and Wales. And most ironically, a London Climate Action Week panel dedicated to improving governance of extreme heat around the world was cancelled due to the extreme heat. But in response, an Australian TikToker that we have coming on here today called Talia Madison posted a video where she said Brits are a bit soft, stating that if Australia reacted the same way when temperatures reached 30 or 34 degrees, the whole economy would shut down. And so here is the video that you can all have a look at.
I'm just on the train in London during a heat wave, and they have reduced services because of the heat, because it's getting to 33, 34 this week. So the next 2 days there actually are less trains, and they're advising you not to travel unless it's completely essential. And as an Australian, also schools are finishing at 1:30 because it's too hot in the afternoons. Can you imagine if at home in Australia we got sent home at a half day or couldn't get to and from work because it was over 30 degrees? My God, the whole economy would shut down.
So what you've just watched went pretty viral and it got 475,000 views. Well, that's the last time I checked. It's probably grown by now. And it also got significant backlash and media attention. Uh, One comment uh, actually got nearly 2,000 likes and it said, "You're literally sweating." But today we've got Talia with us, so welcome.
Hello, how are you? I actually didn't even see that comment.
I don't know why. It came on my algorithm and it made me laugh. I didn't even think
That's
you
so
were
funny.
sweating. I thought you were doing pretty well for a bus. Australia's obviously trained you well.
Yeah, no, I don't think I was sweating at that point.
Oh, yeah. So this segment is for like rage bait of the week, where yeah, it kind of explains itself. But as an influencer yourself, do you notice that
Hmm.
kind of uh, thought-provoking content goes more viral, and would you ever like aim to create that?
It definitely like it's almost like you need to have the perfect balance between something that's going to upset people enough, but you also don't want to get cancelled. But I did not expect this to go viral. I haven't had something go viral like with me speaking to the camera in such a long time, and it was just such a throwaway. I'm sitting on the train, and that the announcements kept coming up on the train, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like it was 29 degrees on this day, and they're like, make sure you've got water. We're cancelling every second train on Southwest Rail pretty much. And I was just like, if this happened in Australia, everything would be shut down from October until February.
Yeah, yeah, no, that it does trigger like quite angry comments, and it actually becomes quite political if you like scroll through. It kind of starts debates on air conditioning and people's living conditions.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you feel to kind of a casual video you film of yourself on a bus creating such uproar?
It's very interesting. It sort of gets to the point where like I do like reading the comments and seeing what people have to say. But it's also people get very nasty, so it gets to a point where I'm just like, I can't watch anymore. And I think there's only so many times where I can say I didn't have air conditioning in my schools either when I went to school in Australia. I think there's just such a disconnect between me being here and then what it's like at home. People think that we all have AC. I was sleeping with a fan when I was 7 years old in my bedroom because we didn't have AC either. But I'm just so used to it that I wouldn't think that trains and schools were closing. I've got two friends here who are actually school teachers and they've been sent home at like midday.
Was there a gender breakdown here? Like, did like one group of people, like, did you notice it was like one group of people that got particularly upset? Like, I'm just curious, like,
I've
who are these
seen more
people who are getting
females
upset?
comment, I think.
Really?
I think more girls have been commenting this time, which is quite interesting. 'Cause I think most of my following is men, but the ones that I see when I go onto TikTok, it's mostly women, and it's the same women coming back every single time to reply to people.
Oh my
They're just
God.
having a conversation amongst themselves at this point in the comments.
It's very funny. Like, I should say funny, but it's just interesting, I should say, like watching from America, where we have such a culture of air conditioning, and just seeing
Hmm.
people like sort of like squabbling about this. Like, why do you think this like touched a nerve? Like, what about it specifically? I know you talked about this sort of the that was a very elegant way of putting it, like this sort of strategy for content to go viral online. But
Honestly,
why this
I
specifically?
think people were just hot. I
Uh,
actually think that people were just hot. Like everybody is uncomfortable. Everybody's sweating.
yeah,
Yes, the trains are annoying. Like I'm in Southwest London. I'm in flats with no AC all the time. Like it is hot.
yeah.
But the thing is, this is now my first summer in London was in 2019 and it was 29 degrees then during a heat wave. And I just think this has been happening ever since I first came here like
Mm.
9 years ago now. So why are we not getting the idea that maybe this is just UK summer?
All right, yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
That's what I think. And I was here in August last year and it was 30 degrees as well. And now it's June and it's 30 degrees. I'm just like, maybe this is just the new normal.
so I grew up in the UK, but I've actually I spent the last year in Australia, and
Yeah.
my experience is that it's like a 30 plus degree day, but I'm packing like the wooliest jumper in my backpack because I know I'm going to get to the office or the library and it will suddenly be like 17 degrees, and
Yeah.
a UK winter, like we purposely keep our rooms at like 21. So I'm probably in Australia on average in colder conditions than the UK, which I honestly love. But I find that interesting that you growing up, like air conditioning was probably, I don't know, it's probably less widespread. But yeah,
I think especially in public now, everywhere is AC'd in Australia for sure. I'm the same. In a supermarket in Australia, I need a jacket. I'm freezing in Coles or Woolworths. But yeah, at home, I didn't have AC until I was a teenager.
Mm. Mm.
yeah, I-
Well, it's going to become, I think, more of an issue too now with climate change, right? And do you have any thoughts on that? Sort of like um, what do you think we're going to have more of these have to have more of these segments where people are sort of arguing about the heat? Like, how do you feel about the sort of changing nature of climate affecting this? Yeah.
I definitely think that it is climate change. Like I've said, this is now, so I came first in summer in 2019. Now I've been here for
Yeah.
3 summers in a row, and it's, it has been hot. That's just as hot as Australia. And the fact that people are reacting like this, and there's red alerts and all of
Mm.
these things, it's definitely showing that it is climate change,
Mm.
because it is just getting worse and worse. And the heat waves of all of a sudden, what had happened 2.5 weeks ago, and it was still really hot today. So I think it's just now, it's at the point where it's like, this is how it's going to be forever, which makes me think, why are these people so triggered? Have you not learnt from the last couple of summers?
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for coming on and braving the heat and joining our show.
No, that's
I
okay.
really appreciate it. Yeah.
That's all right.
Feeling quite inadequate after speaking to Janum.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, when I was 14, I was eating Cheetos on the couch. Like, it's just like, I just could not believe how poised like 14-year-olds are now, I guess. But that's wonderful
Yeah.
to see. And talking about AI ethics and like, they've been to like, some PhD, university or something like that. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It makes me kind of depressed about my own abilities at that age, but also feel positive for like the next generation, that
Yes.
AI can be used in a positive way, I guess.
AI can be used in a positive way. Yes, exactly. Well, we will see all of our listeners and viewers next Thursday. I hope everyone has a safe and happy 4th of July and a 4th of July weekend. And America turns 250, and we'll talk about some of the reactions to it next week. Thank you guys so much. Take care.